is that I'm stuck here with all these sinners, can't kill them.
I have a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to Hazbin Hotel, and while part of me is wondering if I should drop the entirety of Hazbin and Helva, I'm at least willing to give the shows a chance. But I gotta tell you folks, I feel like I'm at the breaking point. Now, I've talked a lot about Helva Boss, but Hazbin Hotel? I typically wait for the entire season to come out and give myself some time to really digest the information before coming a full conclusion to it. Mainly because I've learned that if all I do is talk about any issues before the season is done...
on purpose. Oops. There goes the supermarket.
I think any sort of critic when reviewing any sort of media should do that. It's not a solid rule per se, but it does add a lot of credibility to the experience of what a series has to offer rather than looking at individual episodes and pick them apart. I know I've done that in the past, but I've since just regulated that to quick reviews that I feel like it. But at times there will be moments that I have to tilt my head and wonder, what the hell was that? So, I want to talk about this.
It's kind of part of the whole hell thing. You see, it isn't just a place, it's a punishment. And mine is that I'm stuck here with all these sinners, can't kill them, can't do nothing with them, so I just have to ignore them.
On the surface, I don't hate this decision. Why? Because in some iterations of Lucifer, he's considered to be punished for transgressing against God himself. Now, I am not the most religious guy, but as a fallen angel, Lucifer was punished for giving humans free will via the fruit of knowledge. But depending on the iteration, it was the serpent that was actually Satan, and Satan's a different character and has been in Helva, and yeah, this is why I don't study religious stuff. But the point is that in Hazbin's universe, Lucifer granted humans free will. Heaven didn't like that, kicked him out of heaven, and slapped on the fact that Lucifer can't harm or kill sinners like a bad tattoo. So I'm of two minds of this. On the one hand, it would make sense since Lucifer would be forced to deal with the consequences of his actions. Think of it like a Prometheus effect, the titan in Greek mythology who gave humans the gift of fire, which would allow humans to advance their civilization in the world. But because Zeus didn't like that, it caused Prometheus to be strapped to a rock where an eagle would show up every day ripping out his liver that would regrow. Only instead of liver, Lucifer is forced to see the negative consequences of his actions and see assholes all day. The scum of the earth being slopped right in front of him, reminding him of the bad that he caused. Which, in all honesty, isn't bad. It wouldn't be much of a punishment if Lucifer could just ignore it. Yeah, keep that in the back of your head. However, the other brain in my head, the one that no one really likes, sees a few issues with this. The first, if that's the case, then what consists of harm or messing with them. We see pretty blatantly that even though Lucifer is about to attack Vox, he stops short. That to me says Lucifer could harm sinners, but if he does, then that would be another punishment thrown onto him. Now, I could be wrong about that, but the conscious choice to stop says that to me. So, how far does that go? If Lucifer isn't allowed to directly harm sinners, what about indirectly? Let's keep Vox as the main example here. Would Lucifer be able to destroy all the buildings and equipment in his visual empire that he has? It would limit Vox's influence, especially if he has to spend time, money, and manpower to rebuild his empire again and again. What if Lucifer was to give a natural hellborn bounty hunter a nice prize for shooting the TV? Does it mean that he can't do anything that could be received to harm the sinners? He can't have any involvement with any harm that comes to them? Then again, the line is, I can't kill them, I can't do nothing with them, so I just had to ignore them. Obviously, that line is ambiguous as to what it entails, and that's kind of the issue here, especially when you consider the hierarchy of things. Yeah, Lucifer can't kill or do nothing to the sinners, but what about the other sins? What about the Goetia? You know, the birds that Lucifer apparently created? Are they all under the same punishment? Are they not allowed to punish sinners? I mean, with so many birds, they should be able to do something, and I think, well, that's an interesting thought process, questions that are a bit of an issue, especially when you consider the format of the Helliverse. We've seen that the other sins do have a bit of a court system. Mastermind from Helva Boss shows that to be the case. Yeah, it was a pretty stupid court system, but they still dole out punishments and such. Are sinners just exempt from that? Even sinners that are attempting to bring down the wrath of heaven? I suppose the idea is that
it just raises too many questions.
And normally, that's a good thing in fiction. Not every question in the story needs to be answered, as it allows for speculation amongst fans and opens the doors for theories to be created. But in this case, it's a bit of an issue since it's more of a plot convenience. Lucifer, being this super powerful fallen angel basically not doing anything to fix the issues in hell, did raise some questions in the first season. Though I personally chalked up his inaction due to
Take that, depression!
That was the reason why hell basically was a much shittier place than it was. That while he could do something, his depressive feelings were what held him back from doing anything. Trust me, when those feelings get you, the world doesn't really matter. You feel like nothing you do matters, and even the things that lift you up normally just don't cut it. People don't understand how debilitating depression can be until it hits them personally. I could have totally seen Lucifer being unable to give a care about what happens in hell because, coupled with the fact that his actions have effectively caused countless souls to be damned and exterminated, he's been at this for many, many years. That would weigh on the character's shoulders, hell, anyone's shoulders, especially if it's part of his punishment for giving man free will. But to me, this is more of a plot convenience. Because, yeah, Lucifer could probably kick Vox's ass. And to make it clear, this isn't so much of a plot hole. Plot holes are inconsistencies that create logical flaws in the plot. The conveniences here are where an easy solution appears to solve a problem without the characters actually earning it. In this case, Vox being able to continue his plans for a war on heaven even though Lucifer could easily stop it if it wasn't for that punishment that brought up. One could even argue it's a bit of a contrivance. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it is necessary for the plot of Hazbin Hotel to move forward, and that can break a person's immersion. To me, it's on a fine line with that, because I can see the positive merits for it, and it would make some sense. I mean, heaven isn't exactly a place where big brains live from what I've seen in this show. Of course, there's another issue I have with this topic. Typically, when you're punished by something, you're kind of forced to face that punishment. Punishment is forced suffering. You can't just opt out of it. So when we get this line, "So I just had to ignore them," I'm sorry, y'all are stupid. Instead of being forced to actually interact with the sinners from what we see in the show, Lucifer is capable of ignoring them. He holds up in a duck-themed palace, making new ducks, watching duck soap operas, and combating his depression. All the while, humanity's worst runs wild and free to do what they want in hell. I kinda thought this was a punishment. Hell, he still has his magical abilities that allow him to help Charlie out. That's kind of the point of Hell's Greatest Dad song, that he has all these perks to help his daughter out, which, as a punishment, mind you, you can't just let the sinners and demons do just whatever the hell they want if you're not forced to actually take responsibility for it. How is this a punishment? It'd be like sending a kid to his room but forgetting he's got comics, a television, a Nintendo Switch 2, many games, and what have you, so it ends up not being much of a punishment because, well, he's got all these perks too. I mean, all heaven did was this to Lucifer effectively. So if Lucifer is capable of ignoring the sinners and going about his way, is it really a punishment in that regard? The only reason he ever gets involved with the sinners is when Charlie calls him up for a favor. Lucifer is over here going, "Not my circus, not my monkeys," and these are technically his citizens, but he doesn't care. His punishment is supposedly watching free will backfire on him.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets!
But putting aside that he can pretty much ignore whatever happens in hell, I think it's kind of hard to really think this character is interesting after this because he found a loophole. Apparently, he's just either too stupid for thousands of years to find loopholes in this, except he did find one, since he can just not interact with the sinners as much as he wants. The way that this is explained is incredibly vague, and you can find lots of loopholes, one of which Lucifer is exploiting immediately in the series. Even if he can't kill or do anything to the sinners, you can't, say, cut off the power to the city, you can't knock over the V's tower, you can't hire a Hellborn to pull the trigger. Hell is a shitty place, but it isn't really that much of a punishment for the sinners, at least from what we've seen. Most of the suffering is caused by the sinners themselves onto others, which might as well be dumb because you have to make a contract in order to get into that. We see that sinners can have homes, they can have businesses, even get superpowers. Did no one think until 7 years ago that this could be a problem down the line? And yes, I say 7 years ago because that's when the exterminations began. Maybe there should be something other than the exterminations to prevent an uprising of the ever-increasing population of assholes. Don't get it twisted. For a character that is supposedly as strong as Lucifer is, a fallen angel, there should be a restriction. You don't want a Deus Ex Machina to come in and solve the issues with the show. It'd be boring that way. But when you have such a vague restriction, as well as showing a very blatant loophole with the writing, it makes me wonder if the character's either dumb, lazy, or if the writers didn't bother to think of the implications of what they put down on paper. I understand the idea. This restriction is more or less a lazy way of removing the save the world button. It's an issue though as to how it just plopped onto the table for the audience. There should have been an established moment going on before this reveal. Then it'd make a lot more sense and a lot easier to swallow. And at least the rules would be a bit more established before.
They say the family you choose is better.
What a bunch of losers!
Can you butt out of my song?
Your song, I started this!
I'm singing it, I'll finish it.
Oh, you tacky bitch!
Oh, would you look at that? Lucifer using his magic on Alistair to push him away and then grabbing his collar. Couldn't that potentially harm Alistair? You know, a sinner? Does that not count or something?
Definitely no. Positively no. Decidedly no.
You know, I think a bigger issue for me is if Lucifer didn't stop his punch against Vox and the attack landed and didn't do anything to the TV head, I'd take this a lot more seriously. But since we can see he can affect sinners in season 1 with Alistair, I'm getting conflicting messages. Now, one can easily argue that the song that's being used in that scene has hyperbolic imagery in it, meanwhile the one with Vox was more in line with reality, at least in the Helliverse. Except when that scene happens, it directly translates back into the reality when Mimsy pops in, so it's a little more vague for me as well. So let me spell this out for you. The issues I have with the restriction are the following: the vagueness of it, the fact that Lucifer is capable of ignoring the sinners despite this being a punishment, therefore it's a loophole he's exploiting, the fact that there are obvious loopholes, and there's contradicting information in the first season for this. Even if it's hyperbolic imagery, it still translates into the show's actual reality to me. Now don't get me wrong, there is a reason for why a character as powerful as Lucifer couldn't have been actually fixed the issues up to hell in this point. I think, as I've already stated, if the punch did land on Vox and it did nothing, it would make much more sense. It would actually showcase that Lucifer literally can't smite or harm sinners, setting a clear line. It also falls in line with the first season and why Alistair wouldn't be affected by Lucifer's magic. It's a much more simple fix than you think. Hell, if you really want to make it more of a punishment, could have had the damage be reflected back onto Lucifer himself. Any attack he lands on a sinner, the sinner is fine and the damage lands on Lucifer. This would still open up the other loopholes for Lucifer, having Hellborn doing the deeds or messing with the sinner's personal effects and properties, but I would feel like after thousands of years, with countless amount of sinners coming into hell, even if Lucifer were to use other loopholes with restriction, it'd be a fruitless endeavor. After all, even if an asshole like Vox was killed off, how long until another asshole appears to take his place? It's an interesting idea and a good way to prevent an angel from coming down to fix any issues, but to me, it's very messy at the very least. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't a huge issue for the show. There are a number of other issues that I have with the series, and maybe I'll have a full video near the end of the year expressing them when Season 2's done. Or maybe not. I have other things I want to talk about before then. I don't think Season 2 is all that bad. I actually think it's a bit of an improvement over the first season, especially considering the only major complaints I've had of it are this vague restriction and how Lucifer is already dodging his punishment via a loophole. I do have another video coming out where I do talk about another issue, but we'll save that for then. Now, I can be completely off base. I'm totally willing to accept that, but that's just what I think. In any case, I'm MangaKamen. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Hazbin Hotel Season 2. Be sure to leave a like and a comment down below, and if you're on mobile, consider using the hype feature to help push this video into the algorithm. It really helps out a lot. Until next time, later.